show me what you're doing. We turned it off because we were hoping that maybe once it cooled down, that then it would start up again. Well, I realized that I was
Let's go to the internet. It's really a complex. It's a complex calendar. Oh, I get them. Good morning, good morning. Nice shirt. That's retro.
Number of retro cat.
I love it. With cats. My husband has fish shirts, so everything with fish. There is. I've been talking to people. How are you? And they want to talk about it. And they told me about Wally cats. Have you heard about it? Yeah, that was. I didn't know about it. Yeah, it is a thing. Have you ever had Wally cats? I guess it's like this cat, right? Cat. I just love saying Wobbly. Wobbly cat. Hi. Good morning. Welcome. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you. Yeah, we're good to go. Thank you, Jack. She's a greeter, so she's here. Stranger?
So welcome to the Unitarian Church on this Sunday morning. My name is the Reverend Dr. Oscar Sinclair. It is a pleasure to be here this morning. I'm joined in our chancel by Kathy Disney, our worship associate, our director of religious growth and learning, Chelsea Krafka, all the folks who come together here every week to make this service possible. Our vision as the Unitarian Church of Lincoln is that we aspire to be a loving community, uniting reason with spiritual exploration to transform ourselves and the world. That continues to be a big dream, but one that has carried us through economic uncertainty, pandemic, climate change, and difficult times in the state of Nebraska. We dream big at UCL, and then we work to bring those dreams into the world because we know we are capable of doing big things together. The world needs transformation. It needs love, and when we gather, we bring our spirits and our reason to that task. Okay. So tissues in my pocket. Many of you probably saw the letter that I sent to the congregation yesterday. In case you haven't, I'm going to read it here. And then we're going to go forward with the service that we had planned this morning. Dear members and friends of the Unitarian Church of Lincoln, on Thursday morning, I was invited to be the candidate for the senior minister position at Unity Church Unitarian in St. Paul, Minnesota. I have accepted that invitation, and my ministry with the Unitarian Church of Lincoln will end at the end of this congregational year. This is a bittersweet letter to write. It is certainly a bittersweet letter to speak. I did not expect to leave Lincoln this year. And while I'm excited about this opportunity, I'm also very sad in this moment to be leaving this community. I am so proud to have known this congregation that shows up from the first days that I was in Lincoln. You have been kind, committed, joyful, full of laughter, the kind of congregation that ministers dream of serving. Together we have launched new worship services, endured a pandemic, organized for justice, built deep ties in the surrounding Lincoln community. I am proud to have played a part of that, but just a part. And I look forward to hearing what you do next. So in the coming weeks, I will candidate in St. Paul, while the leadership of the Unitarian Church of Lincoln develops a transition plan. You are served by a fantastic group of staff and lay leaders. They're going to be supported by the Mid-America region of the UUA and the National Transitions Office. That'll help you find an interim or contract minister for next year. They will likely start in August. I will return from furlough on May 1st. And it's my hope that we can take May and June to say goodbye well, to not just do this sort of as one announcement on a Sunday morning, celebrating what we've done together and wishing each other the best in our next steps. You are an extraordinary group of people. It has been an honor to serve this congregation for the last 7 years. Oof. It's a little blurry here. So I want to close this letter with words from Reverend Wayne Arneson that we have often read together. We'll use these as the chalice lighting words for this morning as well. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. So with that, we'll light our chalice. Okay. So obviously this is news. Over the last 48 hours, I've been in conversation with the board here, with the Mid-America region, and everyone involved. There will be a lot to say in the coming weeks and months. And as we planned back in July, when we passed the congregational budget, I'm leaving on a month-long furlough tomorrow from April 1st to April 30th. So the board here will be taking up the next steps while I'm away. I was reminded by Reverend David Pyle, who's the Mid-America Regional Lead, that when I come back in May and June, I will have exactly one job at the congregation, and that is to say goodbye well. This is the time where I get to start handing off congregational leadership to lay leaders here, and I get to focus on saying goodbye. So that's what May and June will be for me. I hope we can take time to do that at more length than just this morning. But for now, I hope the thing that you hear is that I love you, that I love this place, that it is hard to leave, that this is not a decision that I take lightly. It's been an honor to serve this congregation, and I know that you will manage these next steps, this transformation, well and faithfully. But for now, we're going to go through the service as we had planned it for today. It is perhaps fittingly Easter Sunday. It is also certainly fittingly fitting for my time in Lincoln, an all-ages service. So those services can sometimes be less formal than usual. That's fine. The noise of children is the sound of a healthy church, right? And while our theologies in this place and time vary, Easter is a day about transformation, about endings and about new beginnings. So as we begin that, will you rise in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn number 38, Morning Has Broken.
Blackbird has spoken, Easter speaks to us of hopeful new beginnings. We know that in this world it is natural for the living to die, to feel despair, and also to feel hope. After the cold of winter, babies are born, trees grow, and flowers break through the earth to bloom. Life begins, ends, and begins again, over and over. The dawn of each day holds potential to begin anew. And with that in mind, I'm going to ask for your help in telling the story this fine Easter morning. It is a story of springtime. So this is what we're going to do. All the people in this section, Kathy, if you will, thank you, will be our mouse and our cardinal. Oh, we have people coming in. Listen for your role. We're assigning you work right as you're walking in the door. So you all are mouse and cardinals if you're where Kathy is motioning. So when you hear the word mouse or mice in our story, you'll say, squeak, 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 squeak. And when I say the word cardinal, you'll say, what cheer, what cheer? So let's try that. Ready? Mouse and cardinal. There you go. All right, so next group, this section, thank you, will be our squirrels and our tadpoles. Can anyone who has a bunch of squirrels in the yard tell me what a squirrel says? There you go. And the tadpoles, well, they don't say anything, but they do go swishy swish. So let's practice. Squirrel and tadpole. There you go. Our third group will be a contrast of the intense and the calm. When you hear the word nighthawk, you'll respond with scree, scree. And when you hear the word pond, you'll make a gentle plop, 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 plop. All right, once more, nighthawk and pond. There you go. Our final group will be our frogs and our daffodils. So I bet you can guess what a frog says. There you go. And, well, daffodils. Okay, that's a little bit tougher. Let's go, ooh. Like, ooh, look, there's flowers finally. All right, so try one more time. Frogs and daffodils. All right, our final sound effect is for everyone. When you hear the word spring, we're all going to say, ah. All right, so one last practice and the story will begin. Mouse, squirrel, squirrel. I'm looking at the wrong group. There we go. Okay. Nighthawk, frogs, cardinals, tadpoles, pond, daffodil, and spring. All right, let's begin. It wasn't a particularly hard winter that year, but it was long and dull and colorless. No wonder then that when the first winds of the season blew warm breath across the land and the land began to turn green, that the wild creatures on 4 feet and on wing took notice. A small brown mouse sat back on her haunches and smelled the warm air. She knew what this meant. The green time was coming, and the first small shoots of grass that tasted so very good would begin to show themselves. Sighed the mouse. Tender grass to nibble on and to line my nest for my babies. The small brown mouse was not the only creature glad to smell spring in the air. A fuzzy-tailed squirrel scampered to and fro up and down the trees. He paused a moment to watch a cardinal and her mate work on their nest. Mrs. Cardinal wanted to line the nest with soft lint and grass in a particular way, and Mr. Cardinal was getting tired of her fussing, and soon he flew off and hid behind a daffodil, which was nodding in the breeze. The squirrel shook his tail, and scampered off. He remembered a spot near a daffodil where he had hidden a particularly juicy horse chestnut. He hoped that the little brown mouse had not found it. High overhead, the nighthawk surveyed the land. He passed his winters far to the south, but he was always glad to return to his home. Some of the trees were all textured and green with baby leaves, and the flowering trees were bright with colored petals, and over there were the daffodils, waving and nodding to him. The warm spring sun shone down upon the land, upon the grass that glowed with green vigor, upon the little brown mouse, as she put the finishing touches on her nest, and upon the daffodils, too. The sun gave warmth to the wings of the nighthawk as he soared upon the wind and beamed upon the cardinal family as they worked, a bit more cooperatively this time, on their nest. The sun gleamed at the fuzzy-tailed squirrel as he scampered about. It even glittered upon the pond far, far below. Down in the deep quiet of the pond, where even in midwinter the water never quite froze, the warmth of the sun began to heat the water until suddenly the frogs popped out of their winter mud nests. Tadpoles started waking up, began to swim in the sun-warmed pond, and they dreamed of jumping high into the air to see the grass at the edge of their world. The joyful chorus of frogs, tadpoles, and pond added music to the colors of spring. And there, did you all have your coffee? And there in the musical, colorful world where the grass was green and the daffodils nodded in the breeze, where the tadpoles dreamed and the frogs leaped and both swam in the warm waters of the pond, where fuzzy-tailed squirrels scampered in the trees as the nighthawk settled into his tree. While the sun shone down, the little brown mouse had her babies, and the cardinals laid 4 eggs. And what had been the promise of spring became the fulfillment of it. A time for renewal, rebirth, and above all, hope. So that is the end of our story. Give yourselves a round of applause. Now I believe we have our guest musician.
Welcome. I'm Peg Pelter, a member of the Board of Trustees, and I want to offer a special welcome to those of you who are visiting for the first time. Please join me and all of us for coffee and conversation in the gallery after the service. Our spring auction in April is our biggest fundraiser of the year. Donations will be accepted online until April 7th, so you got another week. We ask you to consider offering a meal or connect with others and plan an event. Use the button at the top of the website to go directly to the auction page. Today, exciting, today is the Easter egg hunt after service. When the bell rings, the preschool youth will be given a 30-second head start. Children will collect eggs, turn the change in for the organization of their choice, and take home a goodie bag. We gather on the back patio unless it's raining. If you have any questions or would like more information, stop by the church office after the service.
Today, March 31st, is International Transgender Day of Visibility. In honor of this day, I offer this prayer from the Transforming Hearts Collective. Spirit of life and love that resides within and among us, we enter this moment with all that we are, with an open heart and a love for justice. We hold in love and prayer all transgender people, so many of whom live under the weight of violence, fear, and intolerance. We hold in love and prayer all the ways that transgender people have survived and thrived in a hostile world. We hold in love and prayer all those who recognize the significance of gender justice for all people. We who believe in freedom will not rest until it comes. We pray for the dawn of a new day when the very humanity of trans people is no longer called into question or ignored. We pray that physical, emotional, and spiritual violence will come to an end. We pray that a spirit of compassion and care will fill us to overflowing, that we may have the capacity to listen, learn, and grow not only in our own awareness, but also in our willingness to act. We pray for teachers, spiritual leaders, social workers, lawyers, and all people who heed the call to support trans liberation, trans leadership, and trans visibility. May they ultimately lean into the light of truth and justice, offering hope to trans and gender nonconforming youth and adults. On this day, we commit and recommit to creating a world where people of all genders know peace, love, and justice. We commit and recommit to living lives of compassion and care for all of humanity. We commit and recommit to the healing work of relationship building that will help every person know, no matter their gender or sexuality, that they are loved and valued. A central part of our service is the time we join together as a community to mark the moments of our lives. We share with one another our joys, our sorrows, the events that mark the steps on our journey. The threads of sorrow and those of joy are intertwined in the fabric of our lives, present for all, remembered by all. We share those threads, and they are woven together with those of others in our community. Our joys are shared and magnified. We are comforted in our sorrows. I invite you to type into the chat or to speak in this shared space your name or the name of another you wish to be remembered in sorrow, and there is a slight lag between the online and the in-person presence, so I may come back around as I need to for that. Please share your name or another you wish to be remembered in sorrow.
Linda.
Linda.
Joan Anderson.
Joan Anderson.
John and Linda.
Again?
John and Linda.
John and Linda. Clancy.
Our church.
Our
Oscar and Stacy are leaving.
Our church, Oscar and Stacy are leaving.
Tara.
Tara, George, the families in Baltimore. Also, Ailish is leaving. The people of Palestine. The people of Ukraine. Mary Singer. Larry Singer. On the chat, we have from Marcia, Cedar all sorrow, missing Ray, especially today. Joy, the peace lilies from his service in the sanctuary bring me comfort. I now invite you to type into the chat or speak into this shared space your name or the name of another you wish to be remembered in joy. Unity Church.
Time spent with Oscar and his family.
Time spent with Oscar and his family.
I'd like to celebrate our leadership, both on the board and in the program council and throughout the congregation. So capable, thoughtful, and kind who will lead us forward in this next step on our journey.
Our lay leadership, which will lead us forward with compassion and kindness and efficiency. Great grandma.
The A Street Band.
The A Street Band.
Our rock star minister who's going to be playing a much bigger arena.
Our rock star minister who's going to be playing in a much bigger arena.
My brother who's homeless, he turned 40 this week.
Jason's brother, who is homeless, turned 40 this week.
Julie Gibson.
Julie Gibson. We have nothing new in the chat. We know, too, that there are some joys, some sorrows that are yet unspoken, but still deeply felt. Let us hold a moment of silence for everything unspoken. Thank you for your presence. Our next hymn is number 266, Now the Green Blade Riseth, which is an actual Easter hymn, but the tune, well, you'll recognize it when you hear it, but Bill, would you play it through once for us? And please stand in body and spirit.
Green
Each week, we take up a collection to support the work of this church and our partners in the community. We do this because just as we all grow from our participation in this community, we all give back through our time, our talent, and our treasure. To give, you can text UC Lincoln and the amount to 73256. That's UC Lincoln and the amount to 73256. While our next selection of guest music is playing, the offering will now be gratefully received.
story is called Maybe by Kobe Yamada. Have you ever wondered why you're here? You are the only you there ever has been or ever will be. You have so much to offer. Maybe you'll invent something that no one has ever seen before. Maybe you'll build things that reach high into the sky. Your life is yours. Try as many things as you can try. See as much as you can see. Wherever you go, take your hopes, pack your dreams, and never forget, it is on journeys that discoveries are made. Maybe you'll help others to see the beauty in each day. Or maybe you will lift cheering crowds onto their feet. Do everything with love. Follow your heart and see where it leads you. Maybe you're here to shine a light into places that have been dark for far too long. Maybe you will speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. Maybe you are here to help in ways that only you can. There will be struggles. There will be fears, and it won't always be easy. At times it will feel really hard, and you might make a mess of things. You might fall down. You might fail. But you will also get back up, and you will rise a little stronger and a little taller. And you will also know that there is more inside you than you could even realize. And this world needs your gifts, your talents, your big ideas. And maybe you're just getting started. What if you are only scratching the surface of what you can do and who you can be? What if you have talents you haven't discovered yet? There's something really powerful or even magical about you. You already have everything it takes to do big things. Maybe you have no idea just how good you really can be. And maybe you don't know how much you matter. But maybe, just maybe, the world has been waiting centuries for someone exactly like you. One thing is for sure, you are here. And because you are here, anything is possible. And that is the end of that story.
We'll get there. So all month we've been talking about transformation, about how some things change and some stay the same, about how endings are beginnings and beginnings are endings, and we sometimes don't know whether to feel happy, sad, excited, or anxious about any of that. Obviously, this theme is personally present for me right now. But there are two other places that we can talk about transformation, very briefly. The first is Easter. We're not going to spend much time this morning talking about the Christian holiday that happens today, but it is a story of transformation, a story of change. I'll say this part briefly, mostly for the adults. My favorite version of the Easter story is the one in the Gospel of Mark. In it, after Jesus dies, his followers return to the tomb right at the end of the Gospel of Mark, and they find it empty. But unlike later accounts, and unlike a version of Mark that was added a couple hundred years after the original was written, in the original there are no supernatural experiences or conversations. The story ends abruptly. In this moment of wonder and uncertainty, the tomb is empty. What do we do next? The end. The second story of transformation we can talk about, and we have been talking about, is what's going on in Unitarian Universalism, So for a year and a half now, we've been talking about rewriting Article 2 nationally. We've been introducing bylaws revisions at services every couple weeks for 18 months and trying to figure out how to make that interesting. Finding new ways to talk about the things that we value, the things that we hold together. And the group of people who wrote Article 2 settled on 6 values that we hold in common. You might recognize some of them as monthly themes from our worship this year. Interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice. 6 values. 6 values are a lot to remember. And a lot of us, for a year and a half, have been trying to figure out how to talk about it, and more importantly, how to remember what those 6 are all year. A few months ago, one of my colleagues, Reverend Elizabeth Mount in Cheyenne, Wyoming, started to rearrange the first letters of the values to see if there was a way she could start to get it in her head. So I'm going to get out of the way. Chelsea's got some ideas of how we might use jet pigs here at the Unitarian Church of Lincoln.
I would really love for some children to come forward here. If you've seen, there's some Easter baskets up here. So if you would like to come forward, you can get to see what are in these cool Easter baskets. Come on forward and have a seat. Hi. Good to see y'all. So, if you've been a Unitarian Universalist for a while, you've probably heard of the UU principles. These are ideas which we can agree are important in our church communities. And I'm waiting on AV to get to our principles slide here. There we go. Thank you. Does anyone remember the song we sang to remember our principles? I know you guys. Do you remember that song that we sang a little bit? On our slide, you'll see our general principles. The song has them pared down a bit so that we can easily remember them. Karen, do you remember this one? I think this came about when I was a kid. If you remember it, can you sing it with me now? It goes, 1, each person is important. 2, be kind in all you do. 3, we're free to learn together. 4, and fight for what is true. 5, each person gets a voice. 6, build a fair and peaceful world. 7, we are all connected, which will bring us back to you and you and you. So our principles are statements of values that the people in our faith agree to uphold. So let's talk about the values of the Unitarian Universalist faith. The Unitarian Universalist Association, also known as the UUA, is the big UU organization for the whole country. And like most churches, the UUA has bylaws. It's a set of rules agreed to as a group so that everyone knows what we're doing and how and why we're doing it. So you may have heard in service or in your classrooms what we've been referring to as Article 2. This is the part of the UUA's bylaws with the 7 principles in it, as well as the UU sources and purposes statements. The last time that the UUA voted to change our UU principles or sources was in 1987. Some of your parents were probably just little kids when that happened. Unlike many faith traditions, UUs are able to have a say in naming the values and beliefs of our faith. We have a strong belief in the democratic process, which means everybody gets a vote. So right now, we are in the process of determining if and how we want to change the statements of Article 2 that have given, and a lot has changed in our world since they were last examined. Do we have to change our principles and sources? No. UUs voted at the General Assembly last year, and they'll vote again this year before that ever happens. UUs have been suggesting changes for a while, including the 8th principle, which is about anti-racism and anti-oppression. Many churches, including the Unitarian Church of Lincoln, voted to include the 8th principle before the UUA brought it to a vote. So now we need to change our song to include the 8th principle. We'll have to come up with a new one. The Article 2 Study Commission is a group of UUs who were asked to look at the principles and sources and see whether they might need to change and how. So they came up with a new idea. Instead of principles, we'd have values and a covenant that bind us together. So this is the proposal above. The words on the PowerPoint here show the word love at the center, and there's also the words, which Oscar also mentioned, justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. So let's think about these words for a moment. And in order to think through some of this, I would like to have a few volunteers. And don't worry, all of you are going to get what's in the eggs. But I would like one volunteer to help open our first egg, which is justice. Can you help find the justice egg? It's the littlest one. There you go. All right. And find someone willing to open that. Can you hold up what you have? All right. And can we change the slide to show what she just opened? There we go. So we have superhero stickers to symbolize justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where we all thrive. Justice means we work to dismantle systems of oppression, we use democratic ways of making decisions, and we listen to everyone. We work for fairness. So Karen and Vicki are going to pass out superhero stickers to everybody. There you go. All right, our next word that we're going to think through is the word equity. And I can grab that one. Does anyone want to open the next one? There we go. What's in that egg, Ailish? All right, so Ailish has opened an egg that has a ball that looks like the earth. Every person in the world has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. Can we pass out the... There we go. Equity sounds like the word equal. It means we work for people everywhere to have what they need to thrive, and we will use our resources and actions to make that happen. Our next egg, Julie, can you find the word pluralism in there? Who would like to open this egg? There you go. I know that egg's a little tricky to open. In this one, you can also see on the slide above us, we have a magnifying glass. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. Pluralism means more than one, not just one right way of doing or seeing things, not just one perspective. We honor diversity in thinking. It's good that not everyone is the same. We care about the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We can learn from others. All right, our next one is interdependence. Can you open that one up? The symbol we have in this egg is a spider web. We honor the interdependent web of existence. And these ones are down here. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Everything is connected like in a web. What you do affects me and others. What I do affects you. We need to make choices based on this understanding. Our next word is generosity. It's that big Who would like to open this one? There you go. Try popping it, like squish it together. It's not a real egg, it won't make a mess. We have a notebook, so you can write a note to someone that you care about. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. Generosity means giving, sharing our spirit and our resources, and caring about others. Our next egg is love. Vicki, can you grab the love one? We have a heart keychain because we recognize that love is the glue that ties everything together, and it's what we value the most. Love is at the center of all we do, and we always carry it with us. You found love? There you go. All right. I found love too. It's pretty great. It's the driving force behind compassion, empathy, and the desire to create a better world for us all. And our final egg is transformation. It's a good thing they're not real eggs. There we go. All right, who's going to open our transformation egg? We have a butterfly in our transformation egg. Transformation is the ongoing process of working towards a world that embodies all of these values. It requires us to challenge the status quo, to learn from one another, adapt to a changing world, and a willingness for ourselves to adapt and change as well. So a lot of religious education directors like myself have been thinking about how people can think about these words and the actions that you can do in your lives which relate to them. As Oscar mentioned, JetPig was developed by Reverend Elizabeth Mount in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And so this little fellow that Karen was holding is an acronym. So J is for justice, E is for equity, T for transformation, etc. Does the pig look familiar? In the story I just told, the pig was in that book. So the acronym for these ideas reminds us that we have the power to transform ourselves and our world. Something that we say almost every single Sunday at the Unitarian Church of Lincoln. And the story Maybe, which I just read, also reminds me of this idea. How we have incredible capacity within us to do amazing things with our lives. That we have hope for renewal, regrowth, and rebirth within ourselves. So I have an idea for how we can learn together about these important words. I would like for anybody who is interested to borrow JetPig, not little stuffed pig, for a week and take a photo with him. Snap a picture of something that you're doing that correlates with one of the values that we're proposing in the Article 2 language. For example, if you think about the word generosity, you might take a photo of you and JetPig donating food at the little free pantry near our parking lot. Or if you think of the word transformation, maybe you take a photo of your family practicing yoga together. Or you think of justice and you take a picture of you at a protest at the state capitol. This is open to everyone, not just children. So let's see how the people in our congregation are living our values. I'll collect the photos and use them in another service at another point. Look for more information in your e-blast. But in the meantime, is there anyone who would like to take JetPig home today? Ailish would like to? That's fine. Oscar says no. Well, you can talk with your family. If you would like to take JetPig home today, come find me, and you can borrow JetPig for a week. We as individuals and as a community at the Unitarian Church of Lincoln have the power within and among ourselves to transform the world around us. So I'm excited to see what we can do together. And that is the end of our time. You can head back to your seats. Please rise in body or in spirit. Our next hymn is Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee, number 29.
All right, last words for this morning. I will say this has been a day for me to deliver disappointing news. About an hour before this service started, I got a text message from the search committee at Unity asking if I would sing with their choir or lead the congregation in singing. So I had to tell them that we all bring different gifts to ministry, and that was not going to be one of the things that I would be coming with. Anyway, we should have more than one JetPig, because there are more than one of us. We are doing these things every single day in this congregation. All of these people. When we talked about transformation at the beginning of the month, we said that a church doing transformative work is becoming more of who it's always been. So as we're talking about JetPig, as we're talking about justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, generosity, there we go, that's why we do JetPig. We know that those are already here. And so this project that we're doing over the next couple weeks of taking pictures with our friend here is just a way to put that into a visual so that we can remember, so that we can become more of who we've always been. Moments of change are hard. They're full of all kinds of feeling and grief and excitement and all kinds of stuff. But everything that we've said about transformation over the last month is true in this moment as well. So with that, I will sign off for a month. I will see you the first Sunday in May. For now, go in peace, go in faith, and go in joy. Happy Easter, everyone. Amen.
I just want to say that I know we're sad, and some of you may be angry, or a dozen other feelings. But we know, Oscar, that you need to do you, and we appreciate that, and we love you.